Look at ya! Thousands of theater geeks under one roof. Gosh, that feels good. How about that opening number? That's everything we ever wanted our entire lives. Well, I'm so thrilled you're here. We're in for an incredible weekend. Did you guys get your theater geek on earlier today? You're already in? You're off and running? Good. I love you guys so much. All right, we're starting off tonight with a panel featuring the biggest new hit show on Broadway. If you haven't had a chance to see it, make sure that you do. It's incredible. I'm talking, of course, about Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. Unbelievable. The cast is here, the creative team is here, but I'm going to turn the stage over right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome theater reporter from the New York Times, Michael Paulson.
Hi everybody. Please welcome the cast of Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. Everybody, Anna, Ross Gordon. Lucas Steele. Everybody come on up. Wow. Love you, John! All right. Hi, everybody. I think you're on the stage, the only stage in New York that may rival yours for the number of light bulbs. You guys have already set a record. I think this is the only show that has been at both BroadwayCons on stage. So, happy anniversary. Danae, your casting was announced last year at this event, right? Yes. Congratulations. All right, we're going to start with some introductions, but we're going to do it. I'm going to ask each of you to tell me how you heard about the show and how you came to be part of it. I'm going to start with Dave because Dave Malloy is the writer, and Dave, you, if I remember this right, this occurred to you on a cruise ship.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when I first heard about the show.
Yeah.
And it was inside of my own head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really happened when I read the book. It was like an epiphany, like, oh my God, there's a perfect musical just waiting there. And then many years later, I was forced to write it by a theater company as a commission, but yeah.
But you were playing the piano on a cruise ship, reading War and Peace.
Which is a great way to spend your early 20s. I would highly recommend it. You get to travel for free, you get to drink really cheap booze a lot. Very good for a Pierre at heart.
Great. So this show goes back 5 years or so to the first workshop, and I think Gelsey was the first person to join?
I'm actually trying to remember if it was Gelsey or Britton. It was definitely one of the two of them, but I think it was you first. Yeah, I think so.
All right, Gelsey,
I think I would have asked you first because I knew you better.
How did you become part of the show?
I guess you just asked me. I don't remember any of the details. I'm sure there was an email or we were getting drinks and you were like, hey, I'm gonna do this show. You should do it. And at that point, I wasn't doing any acting stuff. So it actually felt like a big deal. But hey, this is my friend. I want to be in a show.
And I should say, I knew, like, Gelsey was one of the first people to ask because of the opera scene, and because I already knew Gelsey's like work as an experimental avant-garde vocalist. I knew there was this crazy opera moment in the show, and I knew that she would be the perfect person to do it. So yeah.
And Gelsey, you play Princess Mary. Who's that?
So Princess Mary is the sister of Andre, who is Natasha's fiance. That's really the quickest way.
So, Britton, you joined next?
I did, and I didn't know Dave terribly well, but he had written me an email, something to the effect of, I have something I really want to talk to you about. Will you meet me for drinks? Which initially...
drinks are a common theme in this show.
Yeah, it seemed I had no idea what he wanted to talk to me about. And then we met for drinks, and he said, hey, I'm writing this show based on War and Peace. I said, ha ha ha, must be long. And he said, no, really, I'm writing a show, and I have this song for you, and I'd really like you to do it. And I said no.
That was after the first drink, she said no.
By the end of the third drink, I said, fine, I'll do your workshop. Fine.
And you've been in every production since?
Yes, that's true.
And you play Sonia, who is?
Sonia is Natasha's very fiercely devoted cousin.
Great. So who joined next?
Next would be at the second workshop, the great Lucas Steele joined us.
Hi, Lucas. So how'd you become part of this?
God, so I'd spent about 4 years in this development deal for a record deal when I was traveling to Europe and sort of doing theater on and off as I was going back and forth. And I had just left that deal and was sort of in a malaise of discontent involving a lot of projects that I was going in on. And my agent submitted me for this. And I took a listen to the demo, and it was Natasha and Anatole that they had sent with Dave singing it. And I thought, what the hell is this? Like, it was so strange in its structure harmonically, and I was like, I'm going in for this. I'm game. Because I was just sort of tired of hearing this normal sort of sound that had been created. And I went in and auditioned, and you know, I wrote about this in the great comic book, so
Yeah.
feel free to check that out. But I went in a couple more times, and then I booked the workshop at Ars Nova.
And you're playing sort of a bad boy playboy?
Yeah, I play a guy who's just kind of clueless to anyone's existence except his own, and creates a bit of havoc along with his sister.
Great. Who joins next?
So then 3 people join for the Ars Nova production, and I feel like maybe Paul Pinto was the first person that was like signed in for real, because I knew that we needed an amazing assistant musical director, because I was music directing at that time and playing Pierre, which was insane. So we needed someone else to play, and Paul actually, this is a seldom known fact, but Paul actually played all of the piano for the last 20 minutes of the show in the original Ars Nova production.
Wow. So,
yeah,
I played Pierre and Natasha.
Dave knew, I guess, my work with Thing NY,
Through
working
with
Kelsey,
Kelsey and Paul.
in this experimental music ensemble where we played a bunch of instruments together, and he called me in to figure out, you know, if I could do this associate music director thing. I was like, also, can you sing and do weird things? And I was like, all right, I'll try that too.
I also want to say that Paul Pinto, clearly someone who's never actually like auditioned for a Broadway musical before, came in and his audition piece was this like fake disco song he had written that was completely in his falsetto. And so he just like sat at the piano and was like banging, was like this.
Are you gonna perform that song soon, Paul?
We are going to perform that at whatever it's called. 54
54
Below.
Oh, really? Perform that song? It's an original song of his. It's amazing.
That was a really good plug, Paul.
and Paul, you played Balaga?
I did, yeah.
Who's Balaga?
Balaga is this troika driver that takes. Balaga thing.
Got some troika drivers in the house. Awesome.
Thanks, Mom. Balaga is a troika driver that's supposed to take Anatole and Natasha away to Poland to elope.
And
he's unsuccessful.
Things happen, right? All right, Dave.
We never really do find out what happens to Balaga after
That's the sequel.
Maya messes everything up.
Sounds like a good sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed.
All right, Dave, who's next?
So then I think actually maybe Amber was next, because Amber already knew Rachel. Yeah?
Yeah, I already knew Rachel. I've been working with Rachel Chapkin for a while in her company, The Team, and
Yeah.
I met Dave overseas, I think, when you were doing Beowulf
Overseas.
in Edinburgh. And I did another musical that Dave wrote the music to called All Hands, and I'm really happy that I had that foundation there because I just straight up auditioned, and it was a bit botched because I got the demo of Dave singing Charming, and I learned by ear. I can't really read sheet music, and I sang it all down for a while, and he was leaning forward and like smiling at me, and he let me
Like
get
down in his octave?
yeah, he let me get pretty far, and then he just started laughing, and he was like, "That was so weird, sing it up." And I was like, "Thanks, Dave." So I'm happy I knew them, because it could have gone another way if I didn't.
And
Answer-
who is Helene?
Oh, I just wanted to say too that the song that Amber sang in the show All Hands, which was a very weird experimental show at the now defunct Ontological Theater, that song was called Transnational Global Capitalism.
Sounds like a Broadway show waiting to happen. Yeah.
Catchy.
Your character,
I play Helene,
who is?
and thank you. Anatole's sister and Pierre's wife. Yeah. She's,
Tough character.
I love her very much. I always like to joke that Helene's misunderstood. Because people like to say things like, oh, you're the evil one, you're the nasty one. And I'm just not.
All right, see the show. Who else?
And then the last person to join us for Ars Nova would be Nick Chokesy, right there. Who came in, and I remember he auditioned.
Thanks, Paul's mom.
And like we were very. I remember he actually auditioned for both Dolokhov and for Andre. And I remember there was a while where we weren't sure which.
And
We
Balaga.
knew, and Balaga, oh my God.
Yeah.
And for a while we didn't know exactly where we were going to put everyone, but we knew that we wanted him somewhere because he's amazing. And then he became Dolokhov.
That's true.
What do you remember about when you first thought of the show?
You know, two bits. One, the whole reason I even got in for the audition was because Rachel came to see me in a little 15-minute play down at the Bushwick Star.
Yeah, Rachel's the director
Rachel
of the show.
Chafkin, the director, and in that show, which we made up, I played a little song that I made up on a ukulele. And she was like, oh, we need people who play instruments, come audition for my show. And I also met my wife doing that show, so I'm glad I took that little no-pay job. But what was your second question?
Who's Dolokhov, your character?
Who is Dolokhov? Dolokhov is a notorious rogue, duelist, and gambler who's back in Moscow after crushing it abroad. And he's Anatole's buddy, and Pierre's buddy actually too. Yeah, we go back a ways.
It's a love-hate thing. It's, you know.
Yeah. And Helene's lover.
Friend.
What? Don't tell the papers.
All right, who's next?
Grace McLean would be next. So then when we transferred off Broadway to Casino, which was a tent that we built in the meatpacking district, at that point we needed a new Maria D. And I had known Grace a little bit from Ars Nova things, and she came in and, yeah, I'd seen you.
All right, Grace, what do you remember about joining the show?
Well, I went to see this show when it was at Ars Nova on the last night. I just barely got in. I went an hour early to get on the wait list. I had been reading about it everywhere, and I love Russian literature, and I read War and Peace, and I was like, I gotta see that show. So I went on last night. And the line was so long, I was like, I'm not getting in. I knew the first two people on that wait list line, and both of them were like, you can be my +1. The three of us got in. Nobody else got in. Sorry. I had an amazing time. This was when you got a carafe of vodka and some black bread. Bye-bye. I had a wonderful evening.
The vodka used to be free back in those carefree days.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Tito's
yes,
vodka.
it was wonderful. And I just remember like laughing and crying in the dark. And I went to see my friends later, and I was like, you need to shut up about whatever it is you just saw. I think it was Bring It On. Because I just saw this amazing thing. The Russians know what's up. And yeah, I had an amazing time seeing the show. And that was in November of 2012. And honestly, by the end of that year, I was kind of like, I don't think I'm going to live in this city anymore. I got to go. And then in January 2013, Ars Nova, I think I'd written Rachel to say how much I loved the show. They called me and they said, will you come in and audition for this show? We're gonna do it again. And I thought, that's so funny, I don't do this anymore. But I really loved it, so I wanna go in and tell them how much I loved it. And I think I sang a song that I wrote, and then a couple weeks later, they said, you wanna play this part?
So who's Maria D?
Who's Maria D? She's Natasha's godmother. Strict, but kind. Don't forget that part. She really loves Natasha.
All right, Dave?
And then the other person that joined us at Casino would be Nicholas Belton, who actually originally joined as ensemble and as Dolokhov, right? You went on for Dolokhov quite a bit that first month for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. A changeover between, I think, Nick was coming back, but then the guy who was playing Ian
Lassiter
had left, and yeah. So I understudied Dolokhov and Ray and Pierre.
And now you play a very old man and a very young man?
That's right. That's right.
I will leave it at that. Who's next?
And then I think we have to jump, right? I haven't missed anyone. Then we jump forward 2 years to Danae Benton.
you joined the show in Cambridge, Massachusetts, is that right?
Correct.
So how'd you wind up in the cast?
I auditioned for Dave and Rachel for a different show, his show called Preludes.
Yeah.
And I loved my audition experience with them, which is very rare that you love an audition experience. But I got a call back, but I didn't end up getting that job. And then they were auditioning for Natasha to go to the ART. And I auditioned in April of 2015 and went through the callback process. And I actually had another job to go work in London, and I changed my entire flight to do the final callback for this because I just felt like you know when you feel it, just felt it. And so, so I went through the audition process, and then I didn't find out until August that I got it, and I was very thrilled because Natasha, I felt like she was a kindred spirit of mine.
You did.
And then we did the Cambridge process, and a show's going to Broadway, but it's kind of like a pilot. You never know if you're going with it. And then it was January of the following year that I found out that I was going to be moving with the show.
And let me just ask you about the kindred spirit, because I know you've said before that you thought Natasha was the kind of role that you would never get. Can you say a little about that?
I thought they were going to cast a pretty white soprano, which is the usual type for this type of role, but I felt so connected to Natasha and decided to just take the leap and let my heart speak for itself and hope that they saw the essence that I felt. And that's what ended up happening, which is a very incredible experience.
And while you're in Cambridge, Josh, you are announced.
Yes. I'm new.
Josh Groban, folks.
Yeah, Josh is our last member.
I was the newest addition to this long and rich history of the growth and journey of this show, and so I came into this process Grace came at the end of Ars Nova, and she came as a fan. I had seen this show when it was downtown at Casino, and came into it I left. I came in not knowing anything about the show, just the word of mouth, people saying, this thing is unreal, it's unlike anything else out there, you need to go see it. Go in with an open mind. And I went in and I saw it and I walked out, and I actually tweeted about loving the show, and that picture of me with most of you guys is still on Twitter from 5 years ago. And so it's very full circle to have then gone and seen the show in Cambridge, seen this incredible, to be enchanted by you at that time was amazing. To watch my standby, the amazing Scott Stanglin do Pierre in Cambridge was incredible, and who's just the best. But I came to the show because I reached out. I read that they were thinking of bringing it to a proscenium, bringing it to Broadway, and I had a geeky reach out moment, and I said, hey, I'm gonna put myself out there. And there were drinks also.
Some drinks as well, yes.
Yeah,
It's funny, I remember the bars, all the bars. The tile bar was Britain, and you were Weather Up, and Grace and I remember having a drink with you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bars.
Yeah. So, but it obviously, I didn't take lightly at all the fact that I was entering a family that had been together and gone on this journey of Great Comet for so many years. And so I was nervous, I was grateful, and I continue to be so humbled by this extraordinary cast. It's been the greatest creative experience of my life. It's been amazing.
So let me ask you, I think almost all of you are making your Broadway debuts, and more than half of you, most of you are not, or were not actors, you were musicians who had bands, who were singer-songwriters, composers. Can you talk about what the difference is as a performer, both vocally and physically, being on a stage as an actor compared to being a singer in a band and so on? Josh, we'll start with you.
Okay, sure. Well, I had just come off of a 100-day tour, and I had about 7 days off between doing 100 concerts and then starting rehearsals for Comet. So I was coming from a whirlwind concert experience of the last kind of year and a half, almost 2 years. So I was scared about the challenges that doing 8 shows a week would hold. Playing a character that sings in some ways very differently from the way that I sing when I'm just me on stage, I knew would be a challenge. The physicality of a stage of this kind is unlike anything that I think many of us have ever had to deal with. So just that was a component as well. And you don't know till you do it. And I think that the differences are, for me personally, 8 shows a week is really, really tough. But it's not 17, 18 songs in a row. I feel like a cog in a really beautiful wheel with this show. We all have each other's back out there. And so to have that support system that you don't necessarily have when it's just you and a mic, was actually a really great luxury that I hadn't had before in the concert world. And from the acting side of things, I hadn't acted in a theater production since like senior year Fiddler on the Roof of high school. So like I was a 17-year-old Tevye, as James Corden embarrassed me on the Tonys last year. And so working with Rachel Chavkin and rebuilding the confidence in that muscle was an amazing challenge, very rewarding, and it's just such a deep and wonderful character to play tonight.
Britton?
It's such an amazing and entirely different experience to be part of Comet. I have probably a very opposite experience for, say, like Josh's musical endeavors. Like, I play to 20 people in a dirty basement.
Right.
So usually with my band, so much smaller crowds, but also feeling like, as far as when I go on tour or even like write my own music, I feel like all the decisions are mine, which is its own wonderful thing, but at times is exhausting when it's like, okay, do I want to play in this dirty basement in Omaha or this dirty basement in, Springfield?
Great acoustics, though, dirty basements, I've found.
Yeah. So that's its own thing, and being part of Comet has brought a both relief and certain challenges. Sometimes when I'm like, oh, well, I wouldn't do it necessarily, I wouldn't do it this way, but Dave tells me, no, this is the music, and this is how we do it, which is also freeing in a way, because it's like, okay, this is my job, and I love this show so much, and I've never done theater before other than, high school. I was in a production of Anything Goes my senior year.
Me too. That was my first musical. I played Sailor Number 4.
I was Bonnie.
Oh.
But yeah, I hadn't done anything theater related since then, and I don't know that I would. I feel like I would do something again that I love as much as I love this, but like I don't think I could do just any show for the sake of doing it, which is not a luxury that I think most actors or performers have. So I feel very lucky to be a part of something that's so magic.
Let me ask you all, the staging of this brings you all in very close contact with the audience. You are moving through the seats, both on the orchestra level and in the balcony, and the audience is seated around you. What is that? How does that change your performance? And have there been mishaps or incidents?
This is the farthest away we've been from an audience in a long time. It's actually kind of disconcerting.
It's disorienting.
Where are you? I can't spit on you right now. This is really weird. Lucas and Danae, you guys have a lot of hands-on.
Yeah, I think that it's actually a wonderful advantage to have this staging because you really have no other choice but to be present every evening. And I think when you are working in a more traditional sort of theatrical setting where there is a proscenium and the audience is far away and you are in the dark, like right now I can't see a lot of faces, I can like clock the first 5 rows maybe, but it's much easier to sort of start living in your own world and to slowly over time when you're doing theater, which is a beast of sort of monotony and how do you keep that fresh, it's easy to start leaving that world of being completely present. And in the setup of our show, it's impossible to do that. For many reasons, one, the audience being there, but also, safety reasons as well. But I want to jump back quickly to talking about this cast and the creative people that are in it that haven't done as much acting. I think there's an amazing thing that's happening on stage every night in this piece, and because they are not hyper aware of what it is to be acting, there is only truth that is existing in the present moment on the stage. And I think that is like key to what makes this piece successful. Because if that wasn't happening, it would very much sort of spiral into this thing that's more about spectacle that would be entertaining, but I think it would be a very different thing than what the source material is based on, what Tolstoy wrote about, which is humanity and his opinions on humanity and the actions that we take and the consequences of all of that. And I think the setup is assisting these amazing performances that are being given, whether someone is an actor or not. There is only a present life happening on that stage.
Yeah, actually, just to add on to that, like I should say, like seeing Britton perform in Dirty Basements is why she was cast in the show, because seeing her perform in a Dirty Basement, like you're just, I mean, I remember like seeing you the first time and I barely knew you, but like I went to see you, I think it was like the basement of the Northeast Kingdom, literally a basement. And like, yeah, when you're that close to someone, like there's no veil between you and the performer. And so like even when you're singing words that like aren't completely biographical, like you still see the person there. Like, you know what I mean? Like she's not playing a character, she really is Britton Ashford singing the song. And that is what Rachel and I really wanted the show to be populated with. We want everyone to be, this is Josh Groban singing the song, and Danae Benton singing the song, and I think that proximity is really what keys you into being that close to them emotionally.
Yeah, and also how it's leading into this sort of very particular style that is existing every night. That's super heightened for the entire theater to see, but also super intimate in moments, because you can't be putting on this kind of face when someone's sitting right here. Like, they're not going to believe you at all.
You can totally put on that type of face.
if moments call for it. But there's this extremely heightened and extremely realistic style that's being fostered and developed. And it's fascinating and a challenge, and I'm glad to see it.
What's the most uncomfortable? You have to sit with some woman every night. You just grab somebody's seat, right?
Yeah.
And then he comes and does the show, and it's
there was, I'd say, probably 3 weeks ago, there was this guy. Everyone's a comedian. This is what you learn. And I sat down next to this guy, and my mic is on because it's sort of a quiet moment, and they were waiting. There's this moment where I stop everything, and this guy was not having it at all. And I say this line, it's you want to act this out?
I'll be the guy.
Yeah. I said,
Honey, Muriel, he's sitting next to me.
It's a Russian custom. My microphone on.
Some customs are better than others.
And I said, so are some audience members.
Janae, I think you wanted to jump in here.
Oh yeah, mine's not as funny. But I was saying, as an actor, something that's helpful to me, I sort of treat the audience like they're Natasha's diary, because I'm going through so many kind of vulnerable highs and lows and it's so funny at some moments, like women, it's particularly women that would be like my mother's age, are either like nodding, like egging me on with Anatole, or they're like, no, don't. They're like whispering to me, don't. And it's like, they're really with me on this magical journey that Natasha's going through. But as an actor, also, the vulnerability that you have to bring yourself. And I think that's what's so special about our cast is everyone is, they're, like, the essence of these people is so unique, and cookie cutter doesn't work here, because it's like, you're not worried about if someone is the 16 bar alto. It's like, you want to see what Amber has to bring, because she can't hide it when we're here, and I think the audience feels that.
Yeah, I was thinking about the proximity and how it's deepened the portrayals over the years. Like, the performances are so rich. I would love to just follow one actor around for the whole show, because you have, at any given moment, 5 people within 2 feet of you. You have to figure out moments where you're just on stage listening or present. You have to figure out that whole journey for yourself, where in a typical show where an audience is far away, you could maybe sit there and like think about what groceries you're gonna get when the curtain comes down, you know? And you can't do that in this place. So it's made everything so rich, down to like the details of how we get dressed in a dark corner because 2 people are gonna see it. It's really fun as well.
I wanted to ask you about pre-show rituals, because I know all over Broadway, different casts have different ways of getting ready. I remember Alex Sharp talking about how he would sit in a shower before every staging of Curious Incident. And I know that at the front page, they run around repeating Benedict Cumberbatch's name as like a tongue twister. Do you guys, like, how do you guys get ready? What do you do?
That might be our new thing.
What do you do before a show?
I still get I get very nervous, just not in a way that I think is going to be debilitating. It's just because like every night you just care so much. You've left it all on stage. You go home, you have dinner, you say like, oh, that was great. And then without fail, the next day I get to the theater and it's like, crap, we got a whole new group of people. This has got to be amazing. So for me, like, if I don't find a way to calm my nerves, like I know that's going to affect me. So I don't like to get into superstitions because I know I'll just stack them up to when I'm 80 and I have to like wear 10 pairs of underwear and eat only like green M&Ms. But I honestly just try to relax and have a good time and joke. Like I just kind of joke with people backstage and just try and get myself out of my head. And then the show, the domino effect of the emotions of the show, truly with this piece takes care of itself once you're out there. For me, it's really about just relaxation back there and sacrifice a goat. Of course.
Gelsey and I sing a short, structured, but improvised song every day.
Should I also say that this started back at Ars Nova with Pippa Sue, who used to be in the show with us. And we've been doing this before every show that we do since then, including the other show that we do with Dave.
They also do it before every Ghost Quartet show too.
So it's like really stable.
Much to Dave's dismay.
Can we hear a snatch of it?
Do we need to make
You know, sometimes it grows into a choir as well, because it sort of migrates its way through. So
Anybody who's around joins in.
I think you should kick us
You
off.
guys want to hear it?
Sure, we'd love to join in.
once in a lifetime, right here.
I think that's sort of like, my superstition says that it's sacred. It is not for public consumption.
This is a safe space, BroadwayCon.
Online, it's a safe space.
There is a video of it when we did it before Joe's Pub show.
I mean, I would do it if you guys all joined in.
Do you want to all do it with us?
And everybody out in the house, and everyone watching at home.
Join in.
I think you've got your
We
choir.
say it 4 times.
Do you guys know the rules of it?
Oh yeah.
We'll start it off. Yeah, you can. Yeah, okay.
It's a bag of dicks. It's a bag of dicks. It's a bag of dicks. It's a Sometimes it's a little jazzier.
I don't know about you guys, but I was not expecting that.
All right, so everyone wants to know about the physical aspects.
Our
of-
online stream just blacked out about 30 seconds ago, just so you guys know.
Can I just throw in one other thing?
Yeah,
So
please.
when we did the show Ghost Quartet at the McKittrick Hotel for a while, Home Sleep No More, which is amazing. And on our last night, the technical director there, this guy Jack, who was like our go-to man, he gave Gelsey and Britton a Ziploc bag full of photographs of Dick Clark, Dick Van Patten, Dick Van Dyke.
It lives
That's
in our
what it
dressing
means.
room now.
Yeah, that's what the song's about.
Cannibalism.
Okay, we gotta stop this.
It is actually about an establishment from Seattle, right?
Yeah, so the phrase, I'm convinced, I'm from Seattle, and I'm convinced when you say that phrase, yeah, woo, Brian! When you say that phrase, you're actually referring to a local chain called Dick's, and you would get, your bag of French fries and hamburgers. That's,
All right.
right, guys?
And everybody bought it.
I've been there.
Everybody got it.
Have I been wrong this whole time? This is embarrassing.
So a lot of people ask about the stairs in the show. You guys are all running up and down stairs. I don't know if anyone has attempted to count. What is the impact on your bodies?
Everybody is in PT.
Yeah, I go to the chiropractor and physical therapy every single week without fail, otherwise my body falls apart. It's like it takes incredible discipline to do that well and to do it healthily and to sing at the same time. It is absolutely no joke.
And I think like the ensemble members, a lot of like Reed, I'm thinking like goes the most amount, all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, the entire time. Some ensemble members have counted like 50 flights in a performance. Like, it's crazy, and all the backstage stuff. I think what's really great, there's only one great thing about this, and it's that like all of that kind of that deep energy that we have to have the entire time, like from start to finish and backstage, never stops. So like we're in there as soon as the show starts, it's the entire time, and then at the end it's just like, oh great, we did a thing. And I think that adds to the arc and the energy we have through the whole show.
Yeah, there's a momentum that sort of gets going.
In acting school, we actually used to do a lot of aerobic things in our acting classes because I think there's a concept that it gets you out of your brain when you're so engaged physically.
Suzuki method and things like that.
And so I think it definitely helps, especially for some of my more like emotional scenes. It's like you don't really have time to get all the insecure things that come up because you're worried about getting up and down the stairs.
So I want to ask you all a little about being performers today. So we're here at this huge convention of Broadway fans.
Incredible.
Can some of you talk about the role of fan culture in your careers? Like, in what ways is it a support? Is it
Why are you reporting at me? I don't have a collection of dolls or anything. T-shirts,
All right, Josh, we'll start
blankets with
with
my
you.
face on them.
Josh, you're obviously, famously attentive to your fans who are famously devoted to you. Can you talk about...
Is that the section?
Thanks for
Well, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, I've been very, very lucky in my career that I've got a fan base that has been willing to kind of follow me into different paths that aren't necessarily the traditional gonna buy the record, gonna go to the concert kind of thing. They're open to the philanthropic side. They're so helpful with my arts foundation. They have come with me to Broadway, which is no small thing because this is a show that I believe in so wholeheartedly and is something that I've wanted to do for so long and is also very different from anything else that I've done. And so I think a great relationship with the fan base is not just funny dolls and I guess like fan swag. It's one of creative trust, and it's one of being able to trust each other that while we may not always disagree on every choice that we make, we're going to go along for that ride together, and it's been really fun. That said, I do have a lot of dolls.
But let me broaden the question as I turn to the rest of you. I know some of you are very active on social media, some of you are not present at all. Can you talk about how you think about what the kind of benefits and perils are for an artist today in being out there, both promoting yourself and taking part in a public conversation?
How much time do we have?
I know, seriously. For me, it's been interesting to get used to. Like, I see someone dressed up as Natasha over there. You look beautiful. But also, I think something that's been particularly special for me, especially on nights when I am exhausted, is the young women and young ladies, and then the young women of color who see the show and I'm at the stage door, who are in tears, telling me what it means to them to see me as a Black woman getting to play a role like this. It's like kept me lifted up. And social media is really how you communicate with the 14 to kind of like preteen to teenager type of an age group. And so it's a weird thing to feel like perhaps it's a part of your responsibility if this is the group that is following you, and to also, it's kind of, if you're educated, it is a way to use your voice and put something positive out there in a world right now where so much crazy chaos is going on, and you kind of have a right to educate people if they are willing to follow you. It's like, hey, we didn't learn about this in our textbook, so I'm gonna post it right here.
Lucas, you wanted to jump in?
No, I'm going to throw it to Amber.
Go ahead, Amber.
I'm only on Facebook and have heavily considered leaving it. I also get the Times every day, and I've heavily considered to stop.
Oh, please stay.
It's just, I'm more talking about the state of the world right now, and I also have a 14-month-old. So to do the show and to take care of my kid is about all I can handle right now. And it is a full-time job to be in relationship with the fans. And I'm honored when I see people on the street because I typically just run out and go home. I often don't go through the signing line purely because I have to get home to a baby. I'm honored when people share their stories. It's deeply moving, but it becomes a full-time job cultivating that relationship. In social media right now, I feel so anxious reading social media with everything that's going on in our country and globally. The paper makes me feel that way. Reading like long-term astrological predictions for the world in the next 4 years. You know, I've gone down some like strange rabbit holes in the wee hours of the night. So that it's a bit personal why I avoid social media.
Right. And Lucas, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I you know, I could talk about this for forever, but it's a double-edged sword to me, and I think from both these perspectives there are things that are completely accurate about them and things to take from that to foster. I have moments where it's easier for me to kind of engage in it, and then other moments where I feel like, how do I find this time in the day to sort of put out there what I want to put out and still be able to do my job?
Right.
And I have to sort of check myself and go, okay, I may have this, believe it or not, I'm a very sensitive, compassionate person, and every person that writes something to me, I want to respond to. But I think it's a tricky sort of rabbit hole, as she said, that you can go down. And I have to stop and take that moment and go, okay, my job, which I take very seriously and consider myself a professional, that is what I am beholden to. So if I can't go out there that night and deliver, that's where I sort of try to draw the line.
Great. All right, a couple of quick questions from Twitter and we have to wrap up. Dave.
Speaking of social media.
Speaking of social media, a lot of people want to know, I know there was a cast album off Broadway, a lot of people want to know if there's a plan to have one for this production.
No, I don't think there would be any sense in doing that. No, yeah.
He says sarcastically.
I think there will be an announcement about just such a thing like that very, very soon.
All right, stay tuned. Josh, as I guess this won't be a surprise to you, but multiple people ask whether after you're out of the cast you're going to shave off the beard.
But where else will I keep coins? It's, I'm decided. You know, it's become an old friend, and some of them are getting used to it. I don't know. I think that I don't think I'll keep it as long as I've been keeping it for Pierre. But I don't know. I may do something with it.
Great.
You know, Paul Pinto always famously shaves his beard between the end of the last show and the beginning of the party. Like backstage, he runs backstage and immediately.
Danny Burstein did the same thing after Fiddler.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
I'm not going to do that. Keep the beard.
All right. Well, we're going to make room for the next panel. Let's say thank you to all of you, to the cast of Natasha, Pierre, and Greg from Everything as well.
You guys are great.
Congratulations again.
Thank you guys to anybody who's seen the show already. Thank you guys so much for your support. And if you haven't seen the show, we sincerely hope you enjoy it. We're having the time of our lives, and we hope you do too. Thank you guys so much.